The Lover, first requested to me by Julia Stott, directed by Jean-Jacques Annaud, and based on the 1984 novel of the same name, takes place in 1929 French Indochina, where a 32-year-old man begins to have a romantic relationship with a girl who claims she's 17. The two meet on a ferry and begin the romantic relationship that becomes increasingly difficult based on their individual families' ideas about how and who they should associate with romantically. As their love grows stronger, so does the forces that seek to pull them apart. Alright, so we got another request here that's very tricky because of the subject matter. And there's probably a lot of different ways that you could view this. Some people would be okay with this age difference as long as it's legal. Some people think it's immoral no matter what the law says, and others may fall somewhere in between. For me, I can't say I was comfortable with this romantic relationship because he's like twice her age and that's a problem to me, but I can't deny the fact that the film serves as an excellent example of how complex love can be. I think this relationship is more justifiable than the one in, say, Lolita, for example, but still, it's not a comfortable viewing experience by any means. I bring up Lolita because the stories are at least mildly similar due to the age gap between the two lovers, because neither is a comfortable viewing experience like I mentioned, and neither is a film that I'd say even the majority of people are going to feel comfortable watching. But both films are very dramatic, despite those premises that take a certain level of adjustment, I guess you could say. Because even though I wasn't ever fully comfortable with the things I saw on screen, I did somehow find myself very invested in these characters and their seemingly dysfunctional relationship. And I say dysfunctional not necessarily because of the age gap, but because of the fact that their relationship comes across as mostly physical in nature. A lot of their time spent together is simply spent on the romantic aspects instead of getting to know each other better. That stuff sort of comes after the more physical stuff, which comes across to the viewer as the primary reason the relationship exists in the first place, which in my opinion is dysfunctional. But as the story progresses, you start to see why these two were attracted to each other in the first place. And a big part of that is their outward appearance, the physical stuff like I mentioned. But the more time they spend with one another, the more the characters actually realize that they're actually kind of similar, despite being kind of star-crossed lovers in some ways. Because they come from different backgrounds, but it kind of feels like they want the same things when you boil it all down. To be free from their families, and free from the societal pressures that sort of hold them back from who they want to be. That's one big area of the story where I think things are actually really compelling, because we're diving deeper into why this romance started in the first place, and more importantly, who these characters are individually and the baggage they carry. This is just a complex movie thematically, and there's really no other way around that. It's simple in terms of its basic premise of seemingly star-crossed lovers that come from very different backgrounds, but the film does do a great job exploring the situations of the two characters and why their relationship means so much to them. I found the ups and downs of their romance, I guess you could call it, to be compelling drama because of just how unique it is. It felt different than even Lolita because of the previously mentioned baggage the lovers brought into their relationship with them. They're both being pulled in drastically different directions, and it's really tough as a viewer getting invested in them and their love for one another, and slowly watching things get tougher and tougher for them as a couple. I thought the performances of the two lovers were both excellent, and certainly one of the bright spots of the film. The two leads were played by Jane March and Tony Leung Ka-fai, and both were excellent in their roles. They brought such a dynamism to their conflicted characters that had me super invested in them individually and together. I also thought the camera work was excellent as well. I think the cinematography does an excellent job of immersing you into the setting of 1929 French Indochina. I felt like I was there, and at the same time felt like I was watching a unique, and even like I mentioned, dysfunctional romance story that had a realistic and gritty vibe to it as well. This is an experience, like I mentioned, that's uncomfortable in all its ambiguities, but it's also really captivating in terms of making you feel like simply a spectator to this difficult relationship in a difficult time. And as expected, the ending is probably going to be a divisive one. Some will say that it's not quite conclusive or memorable enough. Some will say it's beautiful and grounded. For me, I'm of the latter opinion, and I found it to be fitting and in alignment with the rest of the story. It's always difficult with these type of endings because they're going to satisfy different needs based on different interpretations of the film. Honestly though, I can't really say much more than that without getting to spoilers, so I'll leave it there. There's only one con for me here. I haven't mentioned yet that there's a narration aspect to play here. There's a narrator that sort of explains key events in the background info, and usually this works pretty well, but other times it feels like a distraction and sort of like an immersion breaker. This will be another area where people will maybe disagree with me, but I just felt like it sometimes was too prevalent and makes you feel like you're watching a movie, which isn't always a good thing. But as for the pros cons, for the pros, I thought the film delivered an excellent and complex romance story, very strong performances from the two lovers, very good cinematography, and a strong ending. As for the cons, just some excessive narration, but that's it honestly. I'm going to give The Lover a 9.5 out of 10 and recommend you check this one out. It's on YouTube in its entirety for all interested. But you need to make sure you're comfortable with the subject matter. It's dramatic and immersive as a film, but it's certainly not an easy one to watch for all audiences. The love scenes are pretty unfiltered, so just prepare yourself. So have you guys seen The Lover before? What did you think of it? And if not, let me know why not. And also let me know your favorite romance film. For me, Probably La La Land, I'd say. But either way, this is WillFoxification signing off. See you in the next review.